What does love look like when it hides behind control? What does it feel like when the very children caught in the middle speak out at last and truth smashes a family? Welcome back to Core Wealth. Today's story is not just about family, but about survival, betrayal, and the cost of silence. The gavel fell, and the courtroom stood frozen in a silence that ached. Cody Brown stood before the judge, white and frantic, his eyes searching the room as if attempting to find an escape. Standing behind him were Christine, Janelle, and Mary, not just ex-wives, not just formerly married sister-wives, but now united as the voices for the children. This was not about fortune or fame. It was about blood, loyalty, and a fight for what came next. Every breath in that courtroom contained years of secrets. Both sides believed they were right. Both sides believed the children belonged to them. And then came the booming voice of the judge, ringing through the air with one eerie question. Who is truly owed the children of this broken family? Shadows of years kept secrets. Language under the cover of polygamy concealed lies. But in this courtroom, masks were soon to drop. Testimonies would break reputations. A child's unsteady handwriting on one piece of paper could forever change the course of their lives. The Browns had always existed under the glare of cameras, but this was not television reality. No camera might ever capture the look of fear in Christine's eyes, the seething anger behind Janelle's calm face, or the tremble in Robin's voice as she clutched Cody's arm. This was no longer a program. This was war. And this is the question I want to put to you. If you were sitting on that bench with innocence, betrayal, and loyalty colliding in front of you, what would you rule? Leave your response in the comments before we dig deeper, because your voice belongs to this narrative. By morning, courthouse steps were packed. Reporters, strangers, and photographers crowded the air with rumor and speculation. Yesterday, the Browns were a story of faith and family. Today, though, they were a banner of conflict and disintegration. Within, the waxed wood still bore the scent of history. The air conditioner whirred unsuccessfully as it could not chill anxious sweat dripping from foreheads. "All rise!" the bailiff yelled, and the floor groaned as dozens stood as one. The judge entered, and the battle was on. Cody fidgeted with his black suit, his shoes shined, his hair slicked back, but his eyes betrayed him. They glanced at Christine, whose white knuckles clamped around the tabletop as if it alone sustained her. Janelle sat beside her, clenched-jawed but unflinching, and Mary stood off to the side, expressionless but clearly shaken. Robin clung close to Cody's side, not only as a wife, her face begged the court to view her as a mother fighting for her family. It wasn't revenge for Christine, Janelle, and Mary. It was about rescue. Rescue from a man they felt had abandoned them in name only. For Cody and Robin, it was a question of creating stability, structure, and control. The gavel came down once more. The trial had begun. Christine's lawyer rose first, sharp-eyed, cold, her words slicing the air. "Your Honor, this is not a matter of love. It's a matter of control. My clients are here not to seek revenge, but in order to protect their children from fear." Cody shifted restlessly, his jaw tightening as his own lawyer responded, "Your Honor, this is a smear campaign. Mr. Brown is a good father, and it's the wives who've poisoned the children against him. He brings stability. Without him, there's only chaos." Every word hung suspended in the air like smoke, heavy, permanent. And then, 1 minute sooner than they realized, they subpoenaed the first witness. Not a wife, not a child, but a friend, a family friend, one who had seen it all. She walked nervously to the stand, extending hands. Her voice quivered at first, but came to be a clean slice. "I heard the children cry, frequently. They appeared lost. I heard arguments. And I saw Mr. Brown depart, sometimes for days, sometimes weeks. And the children, they always knew." That last word splintered the air like lightning. Christine let her head fall, her eyes filling with tears. Janelle leaned over wordlessly and comforted her in a squeeze on the arm. Mary sat rigid, lips pressed thin, her emotions seeping through only in her eyes. Robin held Cody closer, whispering desperately, but Cody sat frozen in silence, his silence more forceful than any denial. But the real bombshell had not even been launched. Christine's lawyer deliberately raised an envelope, her voice nearly a whisper. "Your Honor, this is a letter from one of the children. Their request was simple. They wanted their voice heard today." The court was silent. Even the reporters stopped mid-note. Cody blanched, Christine gasped openly, and the judge nodded once. The letter was opened. The handwriting was trembly, illegible, but the letters cut like a knife. "I don't know why Daddy left. I don't know why he doesn't come back, but I don't want to live with him and Robin. Please let me stay with Mom." The courtroom erupted. Gasps, whispers, tears. And in that moment, the fight for the Browns' children was no longer about custody. It was about truth finally being revealed. Christine cried as she covered her face, attempting to hold back the wave of emotion. Janelle buried her face, her shoulders shaking silently. Mary squeezed shut her eyes, unwilling to witness the destruction unwinding before them. And Cody. He did not move. His face was clenched in outrage and shame, every muscle hard, with Robin clinging to him, begging frantically. But nothing she said could penetrate. That letter had left him naked. At times, the gentlest whispers uttered the most tragic facts. The gavel of the judge snapped against the bench, demanding order, but even he was unable to banish the words of the child from the space. They lingered, hanging in the air above each head in the courtroom. When the first recess was called, one question raced through everybody's mind. If this was just the beginning, how bad could the secrets be? As the room quieted again, silence hung like a weight. The child's letter lingered in every corner, every head. Cody returned, his jaw clenched so hard his face contorted. Robin whispered in his ear, but he was out of reach, his pride cut deeper than flesh. For a man whose life had been founded on control, humiliation was unthinkable. Christine, however, sat up straighter than she ever had. For all these years she'd been dismissed, belittled, discarded. But here in this courtroom, she wasn't a spurned wife. She was a mum fighting for her children. Janelle held her steady with a firm grasp, her gaze unflinching. Mary sat watching with a quiet sadness, her expression almost an apology, like quietly acknowledging, "I should have been with you sooner." "All rise," the bailiff cried once again. The second witness was called Janelle Brown. The room awakened. Reporters edged forward, snapping cameras. Janelle stood, smoothing the blazer over her hips, steel-sharp poise as she went. If Christine wore her heart on her sleeve, Janelle's armor was always her cool. But when she sat in the witness stand, her eyes revealed another story. Turmoil brewed just below the surface. "Mrs. Brown," the lawyer started, "you were married to Mr. Brown for many years. Tell us about your experience, specifically with the children." Janelle breathed deeply. Her tone was even, but with a hurt. "My children were brought up in contradiction. There was routine and belief, yes, but abandonment. Cody loved them when it was convenient. But when the household wasn't centered on him, when he didn't feel respected, he closed down. And the kids saw it. They always saw it." The words sliced through the air. The gentle truths, spoken softly, cut sharper than any scream. Cody's lawyer jumped up. "Objection! This is outright character assassination. My client has always taken care of his children, spiritually, financially." But Janelle wasn't finished. Her tone turned caustic, her demeanor composed. "Financial help is not equatable with presence. A check cannot replace a hug. A mortgage payment can't read a bedtime story. My children didn't need more money. They needed their father." The atmosphere in the room changed. Reporters scribbled away. Even the judge leaned forward, elbows on the bench, his fingers tented under his chin. Cody slammed his hand on the table, his voice breaking the silence. "That is not true. I was there. Enough," the judge cut in sharply. "Mr. Brown, you will not speak unless spoken to." The reprimand halted him, but his eyes blazed venom around the room. Christine avoided his gaze, unwilling to meet that anger, but Janelle did not flinch. She sat upright, her calm untouched even by his glare. The lawyer went on. "Mrs. Brown, what did this do to the children?" Janelle's hands trembled slightly, her voice lowered, burdened by sadness. "They gave up waiting. They stopped standing by the window. They stopped waiting for Daddy to return. They eventually stopped hoping." The room was motionless. The look of hope draining from children's eyes was too heavy to ignore. Janelle pinched her lip, tears flowing, but restrained herself from totally breaking down. The silence that followed was more powerful than any conflict. For when children lose hope, childhood itself is lost. Robin clung to Cody, whispering frantically. She felt how damning Janelle's words sounded, but fury suppressed sense in Cody. Fists clenched, they pounded onto the table again, softly this time, but no less deadly. The lawyer of Christine seized the instant. "Mrs. Brown, did the children ever express fear of living with Mr. Brown?" The courtroom leaned forward, holding its breath. Janelle's fists tightened, then she nodded. "Yes, they said they were afraid, not of being hit, but of being invisible, of having to grow up in a house where love was something earned, not just given freely." The air split with gasps. Even Mary's eyes widened, stunned. The judge slammed his gavel, calling for order, but the damage was done. Cody wasn't just being painted as negligent, he was being revealed as something far colder, a man whose love came with strings attached, and the question lingered in every mind. When love looks like control, is it really love at all? The court adjourned once again, but the tension only grew. Christine, Janelle, and Mary huddled in a tight circle, whispering strategies. Cody sat immobile, his attorney shouting fast directions at him. Robin clutched him, weeping tears streaming down her face, fearful this fight was getting away from our hands. When court reconvened, the bailiff called the next witness, Mary Brown. The shock was immediate. The quiet one, Mary, the wife long relegated to the sidelines. She had no idea whether anyone had even assumed she would show up as a witness. And yet here she was, making her way slowly to the stand, head down. She lifted a trembling hand and took the oath, then sat, her hands shaking as they adjusted the microphone. For an instant, uncertainty taunted her eyes. Then she glanced at Christine and Janelle. A gentle inclination of their heads was all that was needed. The attorney stepped forward. "Mrs. Brown, your relationship with Mr. Brown was complicated. Today, however, is not about you and him. It is about the children. What would you like to tell this court?" Mary's lips pressed tightly, her voice trembling at first. "I don't have as many children with him as the others, but I've seen things. Cody didn't crave loyalty as much as love. He wanted to be followed, not questioned. And when the children asked questions he couldn't answer, he retreated." Cody slumped forward, fury blazing in his eyes, but Mary's voice steadied, stronger than ever. "I saw the disappointment on their faces, the loneliness. They relied on each other more than him, and I will not be quiet, not when I know their fate rests in the balance." The courtroom was charged, every word hitting like a sledge. This was not gossip. This was not speculation. This was the Browns' private cracks spilling open for the whole world to witness. Cody's attorney pounced on it. "Mrs. Brown, isn't it true your angry words are contaminated, that your failing marriage contaminates all your testimony?" Mary hesitated, her face unguarded and open. "Maybe I'm bitter, maybe I was hurt, but bitterness does not change what I saw, and what I saw was..." Mary's words fell like a hammer. Children who would grow up without the father they deserved. The courtroom froze under the weight of it. Cody's face flushed crimson, his fists shoved deep into his pockets, his body trembling with unspent fury. But for once, he had no words. Not this time. The judge finally broke the silence. "We'll hear closing statements for today." Christine's lawyer rose, her voice sharp with conviction. "Your Honour, you've heard from those who lived this life, mothers who've watched their children cry themselves to sleep. This case isn't about revenge or money. It's about children who deserve love without conditions, safety without compromise." Cody's attorney stood suddenly, his tone brusque and defensive. "Your Honour, this is staged. We have documentation of Mr. Brown's commitment to his children, his financial assistance, his stability, the deceptions of these women. The truth will come out, and when it does, it will be clear who can provide for these children." The gavel fell, adjourned. The courtroom erupted into whispers. Reporters mouthed headlines, families gathered in taut groups. Christine, Janelle, and Mary clung to one another, their faces bound together by shared war scars. Cody stormed out, jaw set as a rock, with Robin following him, face etched in half between defiance and despair. But when the heavy doors closed, there was one thing lingering in the silence. This was only the beginning. The darkest secrets hadn't even come out yet, and when they did, they'd tear wounds open nobody was ready to face. Morning returned too soon. The courthouse loomed under a grey, dismal sky. No smiles, no greetings, only tension, heavy with smoke before fire. It was not like other days. It was a day when the children would be heard. Inside, cold air from the AC or the heavy expectation, no one could say. Benches were filled with onlookers, no longer there for voyeur, but for judgment. They had assembled to witness a family breakdown before their eyes. And what they would be hearing next wasn't from wives or witnesses, but from the victims long forgotten themselves, the children. Cody sat frozen, teeth clenched, eyes flitting about the room but never settling. Robin fidgeted beside him, twisting an old gold ring around on her finger. Not her wedding ring, but one even older, more intimate. Her lips formed a trembling prayer too soft for anyone to hear. Christine was weary but resolute. Janelle's clammy fingers held a notebook full of recollections that she believed the world would ignore. Mary leaned forward, her once dampened energy now burning brightly with resolve. The court had awakened her. She was no longer a spectre. She was part of the tempest. All rise. The judge entered and the gavel came down. The court was in session. The first witness shocked everybody. Not a kid, not yet. The lawyer for Christine approached. "Your Honour, we call the former therapist of Savannah Brown." Gasps filled the audience. A greying woman in her mid-50s approached the stand, professional-looking but obviously carrying the weight of what she carried. She was sworn in, clutching a thick file as if it contained something more than paper. Christine and Janelle exchanged stunned glances. Cody went stiff. Robin grasped his hand, but he remained motionless, a statue of suppressed anger. They began questioning them. "Please state your occupation." "I'm board-licensed family therapist. I saw Savannah Brown for approximately 14 months. "And why was Savannah sent to you?" The therapist hesitated, then, hesitantly, "Savannah was referred due to depression, social withdrawal, agitation. She couldn't sleep, focus in school. Her distress centered on family relationships." Christine covered her face behind trembling hands. Janelle's eyes filled, her nod a silent one of relief. Relief that at last someone was saying out loud what she had long known. Was this distress connected to her relationship with Mr. Brown? The counsellor glanced through her notes, then back into the courtroom's quiet stillness. "Yes." Cody slid forward, breathlessly whispering, but his lawyer did not rise. No objection. The truth burst in, uninvited. The therapist continued. Savannah felt rejected, abandoned, confused. Her father told her her mother was gaslighting her. She felt she had to take sides just to be loved by him. Robin clapped her hands over her own mouth in horror. Cody's face hardened, not with shame, but with anger. Did she ever show fear of Mr. Brown? The therapist hesitated, then quoted in Savannah's words, "If I disappoint him, I disappear." The courtroom gasped as if punched. Christine openly sobbed. Mary silently wept, her hands over her face. The therapist set the file down carefully. "In my professional opinion, Savannah's emotional instability stemmed from a conditional relationship with her father. She felt her worth depended on compliance." The judge demanded order, but the testimony had cracked something wide open. Cody leaned toward his lawyer, whispering through clenched teeth, "I won't sit here and let them assassinate me. I'm their father. They need me." Her lawyer let out a hiss of displeasure. "Not if you keep answering. Sit down. Let them testify." Christine's attorney again rose to his feet. "Your Honor, the testimony of the children is essential. We now call Gwendolyn Brown to the witness stand." A quiet so thick it was pressing against the walls hung within the room. Gwendolyn stepped forward, no longer a child, but a woman. She was dressed in black, not out of mourning, but in sharp defiance, and strode with poise. She was sworn in, straight back, resolute face. The lawyer approached respectfully. "Gwendolyn, thank you for appearing. We know this is difficult. Can you tell us what it was like to be raised in the Brown family?" She nodded once. "It was chaos. A big family, yes, with laughter and love sometimes. But then when the cameras left, so did Dad. Can you clarify?" "He was there for the photographs, every now and again birthdays, but emotionally, he wasn't there. And when Robin came into his life, nothing remained the same. His affection was conditional. You were with him, or you weren't part of his family at all." Christine wept quietly. Janelle gripped her hand tightly. Mary glared at the table, the corners of her mouth clamped into a thin line. Gwendolyn continued, her voice even. "I was 13. I asked him to come to my choir recital. He told me he didn't know about it, but Mom reminded him. I know she did. Then I stopped asking. I couldn't handle the no-shows." The lawyer's voice softened. "Are you safe with your father?" "No," she told him flatly, "because being with him wouldn't be being with him. It would be being beneath him. And I don't want that kind of love." Cody's hands shook wildly. Robin leaned forward, panting harshly. "Please, don't overreact." But he was unspooling. The lawyer stepped back. "No further questions." Cody's attorney rose stiffly. "Miss Brown, is it correct that your mother and aunts have criticized your father in front of you? Haven't they shaped your beliefs?" Gwendolyn's eyes narrowed. "My feelings belong to me. You can only watch someone disappoint you so long before it has nothing to do with anyone else." And there it was, the kind of truth no cross-examination could expunge. The judge instructed another recess. But the stillness that followed wasn't relief. It was the kind that comes after an explosion, when everyone waits with held breath for the dust to settle. Christine's lawyer stood up again. "Your Honor, if we might, with your leave, enter an audio recording into evidence." One of the children had recorded a conversation between Cody and Robin, believing someday it might matter. The judge raised an eyebrow. "Has this been authenticated?" "Yes, Your Honor, verified and time-stamped." Cody shot to his feet, voice sharp with panic. "No, that's private, illegal." The gavel struck hard. "Sit down, Mr. Brown." Christine stared down at the table, her face unreadable. Janelle leaned forward, frozen. Mary's mouth fell open. Robin went ghost white. The judge gave the order, "Play it." At first static, then Cody's voice harsh and cutting. "If they want to live with you, fine, but I'm done pretending. If they turn on me, they're out. I'm not raising traitors." Robin's voice followed, calm but pleading. "Cody, they're kids. Don't say that." He snapped back. "Then they can go. I'm not wasting energy on ungrateful children." And then, silence. A silence more dense than any gavel swing. The courtroom froze. The tape ceased, but its echo remained in the room. For the first time, this wasn't about lawyers or arguments. This was about truth. Christine wept. Janelle stared at Cody as if he were a stranger. Mary covered her face. Cody sat stiff and mute, pushing Robin's hand away when she touched him. The judge let out a weary breath. This court will resume tomorrow, but let it be on record, what we heard today will weigh heavily on these proceedings. The gavel came down. Chaos erupted. Reporters swarmed for headlines. Families grouped together like fire. In the chaos, Christine leaned hard into the microphone, clear enough to be heard. Now they know. Tomorrow would find Robin testifying, and secrets even this courtroom wasn't ready for. The next day, the tension was palpable. Christine showed up early, makeup forgotten, eyes pink but determined. She was not here to have fun. She was here to dominate. Janelle came behind, teeth gritted, fists locked at her side, fueled by rage that had kept her up all night. Mary held back no more, once standoffish, her reserved presence now seated with the ladies she used to avoid. Cody entered last, alone. Robin's seat beside him was empty, a silence so sharp it cut through the air. She arrived a few minutes later, cheeks rosy pale, hair messy brushed into a quaking bun, eyes darting toward Cody and then away. And rather than sitting beside him, she sat toward the back. The bailiff brought the room to order. The air was thick with tension before the gavel had even sounded. Christine's attorney stood up. "Your Honor, we now call Robin Brown as a witness." Gasps. Cody's head whirled around in shock. His attorney stayed mute. There was nothing to object. Robin slowly rose, knees shaking, and the distance to the witness stand felt like a lifetime. She was sworn in and seated, the courtroom holding its breath. Christine's nails were gripping the bench. Janelle didn't flinch. Mary sat straight ahead, calm but festering. "Mrs. Brown," the attorney began softly, "thank you for your time." Robin lowered her head, her voice shaking. "I didn't want to come, but I have to. Can you talk about home life with Mr. Brown?" She looked down at her lap. "It started beautifully. He was committed to me. I believed we were the perfect couple, but then it changed. He became obsessed with respect, loyalty. He wanted to be seen as the head, the leader. And when others did not show deference to that image, he was cold." A wave of disappointment washed over the audience. Cody's fists curled. "And did this affect the children?" She wept. "Yes, he divided them, my children and those children, and I let it occur. I was afraid to say anything. I made excuses, but I witnessed it all. I witnessed how the other children were treated like burdens, and I didn't put a stop to it." She wept openly. "I'm sorry, so sorry." Christine's tears were silent. Janelle shivered, her jaw locked. Mary's breathing was sharp and fast. Forgiveness doesn't erase the past, but sometimes it rips the lies we once clung to shreds. Cody leaped up abruptly, crying out, "You're lying! You're defending yourself!" The gavel slammed down. "Mr. Brown, sit down or you will be removed." He sat down, shaking with anger. The attorney went on. "Robin, did you ever hear Mr. Brown make a threat to exclude the children from his life?" She shook, nodding. "Yes. He said to them if they didn't do what he told them, they weren't his anymore, that they'd crawl back or disappear." "Did you believe he meant it?" Her whisper was barely audible. "Yes, because they did." The courtroom trembled. The judge's face was granite. The weight in the room was suffocating. It was no longer a family fight. It was a man breaking down in public. And then another strike. Robin's lawyer rose to her feet, a folder in her hand. "Your Honor, we offer into evidence an affidavit signed by Mr. Brown last year. In this, he tried to strip legal guardianship of 3 of Christine and Janelle's children on grounds of emotional rebellion." Christine gasped. Janelle jumped up from her seat, trembling. "You attempted to take our kids?" Cody slammed the table. "They weren't mine anymore. They betrayed me." The judge stood up, voice rumbling. "One more outburst, Mr. Brown, and you will be in contempt." The affidavit passed from hand to hand. Its words clanged like thunder. Robin wept. "I begged him not to. I begged." Mary's voice cracked for the first time, low but trembling. "You didn't stop him." Robin had no answer. Christine embraced Janelle, whispering, "It's real now. They believe us." For the first time, Mary's gaze crossed with Cody's, not in pain, but horror. The judge requested a recess. The families were led into side rooms. Reporters rushed to file their stories. Cody punched the wall of his holding cell. "She is dead to me. She chose them." The expression of his attorney was grim. "If you want to survive this, you have to quit. It is no longer about winning. It is about living." In court once again, Mary asked to speak to the court. The judge allowed it. She didn't come up to the witness stand. She remained standing where she was, her voice steady, her face open in a manner that it hadn't been in years. "I was loyal, too loyal. I believed in Cody. I saw him vow to all of us and cheat each and every one of us. I waited for him to come back, but he never did. Because he never belonged to us. He only ever belonged to himself." Her eyes trembled, but not her eye. She gazed at Christine and Janelle. "I should have been with you sooner. Sorry, I get it now, everything." The court was still. No protests, no whispers, only the oppressive silence of redemption, always too late, yet never any less potent. The judge broke the silence. "Tomorrow the children will give evidence." Gasps erupted in the room. Heads were turned. Murmurs spread like fire. For if the mothers and Robin had shaken the earth, the kids' voices would have brought the house crashing down. One of the children had surreptitiously recorded a conversation between Robin and Mr. Brown, thinking that it might be useful one day. When evidence was presented, the judge raised an eyebrow. "Is this confirmed?" "Yes, Your Honour, verified and stamped." Cody leapt from his chair, voice acerbic. "No, that's personal. That's against the law." The gavel landed sharply. "Sit down, Mr. Brown." All eyes shifted. Christine stared at the table, frozen. Janelle leaned forward. Mary's mouth fell open. Robin's face drained of colour. Then, with a nod from the judge, the audio was played. Static. Then Cody's voice cut through like a blade. "If they want to live with you, fine. But I'm done pretending. If they turn on me, they're out. I'm not raising traitors." Robin's voice followed, strong but racked. "Cody, they're kids. Don't say that." Cody's response, icy and dismissive. "Then release them. I won't waste my time on self-centered kids." The room froze. A numbness filled the air. The tape played on, but its aftershocks clung to every detail of the courtroom. Truth, not the judge, now ruled the proceedings from this moment on. Christine collapsed in tears. Janelle stared at Cody as if she didn't recognize him anymore. Mary buried her face in her hands. Robin reached for Cody's arm, only for him to shove her away. The judge's voice was heavy. "This court will continue tomorrow, but let it be clear, what we've heard today will weigh heavily on this case." The gavel fell. The courtroom erupted in pandemonium. Above the din, Christine whispered barely audibly enough for the mic to pick it up. "Now they know." But no one knew. What was to be would make this look tame. Robin's cross-examination was yet to arrive, and it held secrets that could topple all of this. The day following, air inside the courtroom was thick, more pungent, almost smothering. Christine arrived first, puffy eyes, no makeup, no disguise. She was not here to perform anymore, she was here to fight. Janelle arrived next, jaw tight, fists curled. A night of anger had robbed her of sleep but not resolve. Mary stood at the edge, leaning in towards the women she once kept at arm's length. She was not angry, she was vigilant, and Cody showed up, by himself. The empty chair beside him yelled louder than any protest. Robin hadn't arrived. 5 minutes passed and she walked in. White. Her hair pulled back so tight it quivered. She glanced at Cody, then away. Instead of sitting beside him, she slid into the back seat silently. The silence was agonizing, and then the lawyer stood. "Your Honor, we call Robin Brown to testify." Cody's head snapped up. He hadn't received warning. His attorney said nothing. There was nothing to object. Robin rose, each step to the witness stand heavy with lead. She was administered the oath and sat, shuddering. Her voice broke gently. "I didn't want to come here, but I must." She spoke of home life, how love became obsession in loyalty and control, how Cody established boundaries, my kids and those kids, and how she let it happen because she was afraid. The courtroom gasped. Cody's fists were clenched. If he ever threatened to disown the children, she nodded. Yes, he said if they didn't do what they were told, they weren't his anymore, and they disappeared. The courtroom was filled with gasps and tears. This was no longer family melodrama. This was the collapse of a man. Then there was the shocker, an affidavit signed by Cody himself, asking that 3 of the children be taken away from him legally. Christine gasped. Janelle jumped up from her seat. Cody shouted, "They did me in. They weren't mine anymore." The judge slammed the gavel. "Sit down or be held in contempt." But the damage was done. The truth was no longer whispered. It was printed in black and white. Robin sobbed. "I begged him not to, but he wouldn't stop." Mary's voice cracked from across the room. "And you didn't stop him either." The courtroom shook under the weight of betrayal. Even Cody seemed stunned as Robin admitted she'd been an accomplice. And Mary, sitting, not on the witness stand, but in her chair, her voice steady. "I was loyal, too loyal. I trusted him. I waited for him. But I see now, he never belonged to us, only to himself." The courtroom was quiet. Redemption had been spoken, and it hadn't been loud. It was raw, it was painful, and it was too late. The judge's voice broke the silence. "The children will testify tomorrow." Gasps, whispers. Cody's mouth fell open. "You can't do this. You can't pressure them." The judge's gaze cut him down. "They're consenting, and this court will be able to hear them." The gavel fell. Court adjourned. Cody sat alone, silent, surrounded not by family but by void. Morning broke, sunlight pouring across the courthouse steps, but inside, shadows reigned. This wasn't the parents' day, it was the children's. The silence was crushing. No hacking, no shuffling of feet, only the weight of what would be. Cody sat white, fists clenched. For the first time, fear danced in his eyes, not of Christine or the judge, but of his own children's words. Gabriel entered first, tall, hardened by disappointment. His voice cut like a knife. He spoke of broken promises, missed games, neglect disguised as busyness. When asked if he'd feel safe living with his father, Gabriel looked straight at the judge. "No, Your Honor, I'd rather live in a tent than in his house." Cody wilted. The courtroom exhaled in disbelief. Then Yazabel. She shook, delicate but strong. She spoke of her surgery, the pain, the lack of her father while her mother battled on her own. "I waited, Dad," she murmured, her eyes filled with tears. "I waited for you. But you never came." She walked away without looking back. Then Leon. Calm on the outside but seething within. He spoke of being gay, of being turned down by the very man he called hero. "You was my dad. Now you're just a name I don't say no more." Mary wept. Christine and Janelle stood stock still, and Cody dropped his head. Finally the judge read Truly's letter. She was only 13. "I miss my dad, but not if I have to feel small. I used to wait for him. Then I didn't wait anymore. Then I didn't hope." Christine erupted into sobs. Cody sat frozen, vacant, bereft of defense. The judge closed his folder. "This court will recess until closing arguments, but what we've heard today will determine the outcome of this case." The gavel struck. Families hugged one another. Mary whispered things in Christine's ear that no one else heard. And then there was a cop with a stamped envelope. The judge read in silence, then looked up. "Mr. Brown, take a seat. You are formally under investigation for custodial coercion, intimidation of a child, and emotional abuse." Gasps, sobs. Bedlam erupted. Cody's face paled. The fellow who once ruled his home with fear now stood naked, alone and in chains. And the worst, the very worst, was yet to come.